Welcome to another video from EarnPED.com. I'm StevieB. Happy to have you all with us today. It seems I got the echo issue fixed. I do not understand this headset. Sometimes it echoes, sometimes it does not. So, got a couple things I want to cover today. We'll get right to it. This will be a hopefully brief but informative video for you guys as we lead into what is going to be Easter Mayhem. Now, here's the thing. There's some information we still do not have on Easter Mayhem. Information that we likely will not have until Easter Mayhem is upon us. So, first things first, that I want to show you guys while I am pulling together some information that we're going to need for the video here. Crystal Palace shares are down to like $16.99 each. That's a good opportunity to buy if you've been looking for an opportunity to buy. Looking at the New Treasure Island shares, which we showed off in the last video, they're down to 10.5 PED. So that is just barely over the IPO price. Now, why is that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One second. I'm going to get this info pulled up for you guys. There's a couple of reasons. Number one is because New Treasure Island does not have something that Crystal Palace does have. Crystal Palace had a long, sustainable history of profitability. As I've said many times, New Treasure Island did not have that. It was pretty much a dead land area. Number two, as Dog pointed out, thank you always, Dog, New Treasure Island does currently have space mobs that people like to hunt. However, if you go back to the initial release, it said subject to change. Well, that wasn't a problem with Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace was just the way that it was, and it had unique mobs, and it was told it would always have unique mobs. So there is a chance those mobs could be taken off of New Treasure Island. If they do, that land essentially goes back to being worthless. So I think that we have still seen what we saw in the last video. There was a bottleneck. When the shares were first released, a lot of people got them. Very few people got them, but they bought them all. So we had a lot of people that wanted at least one share that could not get their hands on it. Those people have now been able to get the one or two shares they wanted. So the demand is quickly disappearing while all the supply is still there. That is meaning less demand, more supply. You have downward pressure on the price. I think we're going to continue to see that. I think we're going to get close to where that 10 PED mark is that the IPO was at. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that bought in for a lot of shares that are going to suddenly regret that happened. I think that those two players who bought those two huge chunks of the IPO, I think that MindArc probably said, hey, look at the pop that happened with Crystal Palace. Look at the percentage gains that were there, man, whenever that thing launched. And that's why they put that in. And I think now they're really regretting those two big purchases. So I would not be surprised at all to see the price go below 10 PED a share, and those two big purchasers just say, screw this, sell out, try and get most of their investment back and pull it out of game. That would not surprise me at all at this point. I think also part of what we're seeing in-game with the economy, not just with the shares, but with some of the stuff that's selling on auction and stuff, you guys have to remember there is a huge problem going on with Ukraine and Russia at the moment in the real world. Russia is being ostracized at every turn by every nation. And keep in mind, we have a lot of players that are based in Russia. We have a lot of Entropia community members who are based in Ukraine. So the economic and political things that are going on in the real world are affecting those players, are affecting those communities, and that could be having a real impact on the Entropia market. Now, to what extent, I don't know, but I'm sure it's more than zero, right? Also, if you're a player that happens to be based out of Ukraine or out of Russia, obviously our thoughts and prayers are with you guys. Unfortunately, the stuff that goes on a world stage is not necessarily something that individuals that just go to work and come home and try and feed their families are involved in. So obviously, if that's having an effect in the real world, it's having an effect in game too. I almost assuredly can assure you. To some extent greater than zero. To what extent, we don't know. Now, looking forward to Entropia Universe's Easter Mayhem. This will be the first Easter Mayhem since the revamp of Mayhem. What we do know is that in the Annihilation instance, you will be dealing primarily with Eviscerator robots. Those eviscerator robots are supposed to do essentially 33% stab damage, 33% cut, and 33% electric. Luckily for me, I had a lot of limited electric plates already made, so that is great. And also the Gold Rush plate that I own 50% of from the Gold Rush event back a couple months ago happens to do mainly electric with, I believe, a little bit of stab. So I'm good to go off the plates. My armor is going to be an unlimited set of armor that I have, just because it doesn't make sense to go limited given the category I'm going to be in, given the damage level I'm going to be up against, given my evader. Keep in mind that eviscerator robots are supposed to, in the Mayhem instance, go off your evader and not your dodger. Now, that could not be true. From everything that I've seen from past Easter Mayhems, that seems to be true. It also makes sense that even if you had robots that normally go off a dodger in the regular game, it would make sense that to not have to rewrite all of the code for the Mayhem instance itself, you're essentially just leaving the code alone and changing the graphics. It would make sense that they work off of evader as well. We do not yet know what the secondary competition is going to look like. It was one of my favorite secondary competitions. It's going to be kind of like a survival situation, sort of similar to Halloween. It was similar to Halloween in a lot of ways, but it was also different in a lot of ways. There was not checkpoints to capture. That was a big thing. Other than that, you had this thing in the center that you did have to protect, whereas you do not have that with Halloween. So with Easter, the robots just come in eviscerator after eviscerator after eviscerator. They do get stronger wave after wave after wave, and they try and get to that interceptor. It's the interceptor in the middle of the arena that they want to get to because they want to destroy it, and it takes them a minute to destroy it. It's not you, versus with Halloween, they want to destroy you, and you have to run away, and you also have to get the checkpoints. So I liked Easter a little bit better. I was always able to do pretty well at it. I'm hoping they leave it closer to what it was instead of screwing it up the way they did Halloween. Halloween they made way too difficult. There was like 20 stages, and after stage 4 it wasn't even worth pursuing. I think I attempted stage 6 twice, and the first time I just got decimated. The second time I ran out the timer and I got penalized and failed because I didn't kill all the creatures. Well, it's called survival, not annihilation. We have a category called annihilation where you kill everything. Survival, you're just supposed to survive, but that wasn't good enough. So if they make that same mistake again, what we will see is a lot of people not doing the secondary competition at all, as there's only a handful of players in game that can even bother with it. I hope that's not the case, because it was always one of the more fun secondary competitions. So that said, the reason for making the video today is a lot of people give me questions about crafting. And what I tell people all the time is crafting is more or less a money pit. So let's go through a couple of things real quick. First of all, we have our blueprint. So the blueprint is what you need to actually do the crafting. Now, unlimited blueprints have a quality rating 0 to 100. The higher the quality rating, the better, because that factors into your success rate. Limited blueprints are already maxed out at QR rating 100, so as long as you have the skills, you're good to go. However, they do have a limited life. So this is to make extender P20s. It's only got 49 attempts. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to get 49 extenders. That just means I have 49 attempts at getting an extender. Once those 49 attempts are gone, they're gone. So any markup I paid for this blueprint has to, in turn, somehow become profitable at the end of the run. So if I paid 10 PED for this blueprint, then whatever I'm left with at the end of it, I've got to actually have enough room there for profit, right? Also, I'm not going to have a 100% success rate. There's going to be some successes, some near successes, and some fails. So this particular blueprint, for every single attempt, requires 5 simple 1 conductors, 14 basic sheet metal, 16 basic screws, 200 listerium, 42 robot weapon sights, 100 animal adrenal oil, and 2,000 nanocubes. So something I want you to look at is on this list, simple 1 conductors, basic sheet metal, basic screws, those are all other things that have to be crafted. So first you would have to craft the simple 1 conductors, then the basic sheet metal, then the basic screws. Alternatively, you could buy those material off auction. This is a good example of why some materials like basic sheet metal do have demand on auction. Why basic screws or simple 1 conductors would have demand off auction, because some people want to just get to crafting the end item and not have to worry about the losses or the time that is consumed crafting the precursors. Sometimes crafting the precursors can take 18 to 24 hours. I've literally had crafting runs that I wanted to do where I had to craft something like basic screws or like basic sheet metal or basic filters, and I just left the game running crafting for 24 hours while I went to work and went and saw a movie, and then I came back and I finally had enough precursors, versus some people might just want to buy that stuff off auction. Now, I'm not going to do a full 49 clicks here. This is A, because of time consuming, B, because I don't want to go through the trouble of trying to get everything together for 49 clicks on P20 Extenders, and because that doesn't meet my immediate needs. I plan to use this blueprint several times throughout Mayhem, not just right now. I don't want to make a bajillion extenders and then have Mayhem end up being only 7 days long. I don't want to be left in that kind of a position, so we're not doing that. So I've collected all the materials for the run I want to do, so we're going to click on the crafting machine. We're going to go to filter. This helps me filter out my blueprints, because as you can see, I've got a bajank load of blueprints. So extender, I pick the blueprint I want, which would be this one right here. It's a level 3 blueprint. I have 49 attempts. Now notice it says quality rating. That is not quality rating 49. It's got this hashtag in front of it, so I've got 49 attempts because it's a limited blueprint, which is designated by the L at the end. This L over here means that the item you're making is limited. This L over here means the blueprint itself is limited. So I also have a success rate of 95% because I've got max skills, and with it being a limited blueprint, then the quality rating is already set to 100, giving me max success rate. Now you will notice that my success rate is not going to be 95%, so why they actually say that is beyond me. And I've got enough materials for 8 total attempts. Adrenal oil, I need 100. I've got 1286. Basic screws, I need 16. I've got 875. Sheet metal, need 14. Got 464. Listerium, need 200. Got 1740. Nanocube, need 2000. Got 40,000. Robot weapon sight, need 42, got 422, and simple 1 conductors, need 5, got 59. So I can get 8 total attempts in. Now I could slide it from quantity to condition, and practically every one of these would come back a fail, but if it did come back as a success, and especially a HOF, it could potentially be a record-setting all-time high. I am not into gambling away my PED card, so we're going to go with maximum quantity because I want as many extenders as possible. I want to use residue. I want to stop when residue is depleted, and in this case I don't want to use my metal residue. I only want to use my animal oil residue. So potentially there could be 6 of these roughly that pop out. So let's set it to 8 total, because I know not everyone's going to be a success. And let's get right to it. Fail. Ouch, that hurts. So all that just went right down the drain. Success, 200 PED, which is the max TT value. Near success, 47 PED. Success, 200 PED. Success, 200 PED. Success, 200 PED. Success, 200 PED. Success, 3245. Okay. So what did we get? That was a good one. We got 3,000 PED of oil residue, and we got another blueprint, it looks like. So that was exactly why I wanted to shoot this video, was because of the fact that this blueprint does often give you a HOF. It does often hit. So those first couple of swirls that you saw, those were because this blueprint is very, very expensive to click. So virtually anytime you get a success, it's going to be a swirl. The fact that we got that 3245, maybe I should have set that to condition, because on condition that would have been an all-time high. So wow, okay, well, glad I recorded it. Sad I did not set it to condition. Now the funny thing is, had I set it to condition, I wouldn't have hit that. Had I set it to condition, it would have used a totally different algorithm, but that definitely made the run worth doing. So the good news is, obviously I made a profit on the run, clearly. How much, I don't really know yet. I would have to go sit down and figure it out, but that doesn't typically happen. I totally expected to lose money on this run, because that's what happens the majority of the time. If you talk to anybody who crafts in this game regularly, then what you guys just saw, that is very unexpected. That is very much out of the ordinary. Notice that I've got 1 click remaining and I don't dare touch it. What that tells me is a lot of the losses that I've had in my crafting runs before, I just got some of that back. Now, that doesn't put me at a lifetime profit. That just will not happen. That just took a lot of variance out of it. So that is very, very, very surprising that happened. That is not what you guys are going to expect. Honestly, when I started this video, I expected to see 2 failures, 2 to 3 near successes, and then I expected to get 2 or 3 extenders out of it. I did not expect 1 fail, 1 near success, 5 extenders, and a HOF. Not by any stretch of the imagination. So, unfortunately, this is a bad example of me making a video that does the opposite of what I want it to do. However, it's a great example of me actually having a very good run, which very, very, very rarely happens when I craft. I also wanted to show you guys on the skills part over here. If we look at the skills, let's go back to the beginning of my run. Let's go back up here. Okay, here we go. So here's the beginning of the run. So notice that I gained 5.8781 experience in machinery skill. You get more points, more skill points are going to be awarded if you're crafting something that requires a very, very expensive per click attempt. If you craft something like basic filters or EP1 that requires practically no inputs per attempt, you're not going to get good skill gains. But if you get to a point where you've got the skills that you need to do the crafting, and then you happen to be crafting something that essentially costs a lot of money per attempt, then you're going to get some pretty good skill gains out of it. So I got 5.8781 experience in my machinery skill. I gained 3.3582 in my attachments technology. Then we go on down. And it looks like that is practically all the skills I got from the entire run, which is unusual. But this goes back to the point that I've made earlier in other videos. You get to a point where you get back more loot than you do skills. So it would seem that in this case it was just kind of weird. I would expect to get more skills than that. I would expect to get 3, 4, 5, 6 points of skills pretty regularly clicking through this blueprint. Clearly that did not happen. It only happened once. However, I have clicked this blueprint before and seen you've been awarded 3 points, you've been awarded 4 points, you've been awarded 5 points, because since I am taking a larger risk on a monetary perspective, whenever I'm making a click on a blueprint that requires a lot of inputs or an expensive amount of inputs, then the system is going to reward me with more skills per attempt, right? So I hate to put this out there because I don't want to give you guys false hope. I don't want you guys looking at this going, oh, it's easy to hit a 3200 pet HOF. It is not. It is very much so not. I totally did not expect that. And without that, I would be doing pretty good. This would have been a very good run. If we ignore number 8 up here, if we take that out and we just look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 successes that did indeed deplete my metal residue, you'll notice my metal residue went from, or my animal oil residue went from almost 1100 PED down to about 500 PED. That means 600 out of this roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out of this 1,000, 600 PED of that is strictly the animal oil residue, right? So only that other 400 PED was from the inputs, the nanocubes, the basic screws, the lacerium and the sheet metal and all that. So the question is, did I use more than 400 PED worth of inputs? I have to subtract out the residue. So if I got back, ignore number 8 again, ignore that one totally. If I got back 1,000 in actual sellable material, plus, you know, this 47.08 right here, so I got back right at 1,047 under these attempts, and I know that my residue went from 1,100 down to right about 500, so 600 of that was strictly residue that I put in. Then the question is, did I use more than 450 PED worth of material? Knowing that it takes 2,000 nanocubes per attempt, That's 20 ped right there. So for 5, so that would be what, 300-ish, or that'd be 100 just for those 5. So really, everything else combined, the question is, was it more or was it less than 350 ped? If it was less, I made money. If it was more, I lost money. This is not a good example of a typical crafting run, not by any stretch of the imagination, guys. This is very odd. One of the reasons I wanted to shoot this video on this particular blueprint is because it is so expensive to craft that virtually every single time you have a success, you're going to get that swirl. Now, that swirl doesn't mean you made money. That, in fact, just getting that basic success pretty much just means that you got back the vast majority of the materials that you just put in. It would be technically, theoretically possible, I believe, to swirl on this every single time with a success every single time. And if you were filling it in with residue, I still believe it would be possible to lose money. Not just on the markup from the blueprint, but because of how much it actually cost just to try the attempt. And since that happened, and because I don't want to talk without actually having hard numbers, let's pull it up real quick. So looking at cost without markup, just the cost of the simple 1 conductors, basic sheet metal, basic screws, Listeria robot weapon sight, adrenal oil, and nanocube. Just looking at that, the cost without markup is 57.51 ped. 57.51 ped. So indeed, if you are using residue to fill in any of the TT value that is not filled in by the success, it is possible to swirl every single time and have this say success, 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 because that swirl level is going to be at 50 ped, right? So you're using 57.5. So that being the case, you could lose 7.5 ped every time on the material inputs. Still fill in with residue to make sure each item comes out full TT. So you could just lose 7.5 ped over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and still get swirl after swirl after swirl after swirl, and it still say success, 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 and still end up with full TT items because you're filling in that extra TT with residue, right? So this is kind of one of those rare blueprints where anytime you have a success, you're going to get a swirl. There are some of them out there. For those of you that like a dopamine hit, those are totally going to be for you. If you don't care about making money, if you don't care about playing eco, and you just want to get dopamine hit after dopamine hit after dopamine hit, there are some blueprints like that out there. Some of the whips that you can craft are a really, really good example, because those also have such a high TT value input that it's just swirl after swirl after swirl. There is a whip out there that people love because it's got extraordinary great decay rates. It's only available during the summer because whenever they do the Emon migration, you have to have long tooth skin, long tooth texture, Emon skin, Emon texture. I've got several hundred clicks of that blueprint, and I make those whips every chance I get when I can get the materials at an affordable rate, because almost nobody makes them and they sell like hotcakes. They've got pretty decent markup on them. Plus, it's nice to just swirl, 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 swirl. So those are the kind of blueprints that could potentially be an all-time high maker. Like I said, had I hit that well on condition, there might be 3 extra zeros in that number. Not 3. 2 maybe. I could easily see this being a blueprint that spits out 300,000 ped compared to 30,000 or 3,000 ped. However, like I said, had I been on condition, it would have been a different algorithm altogether. I would have had to hit the highest of the high for the most extreme of the extreme. Obviously, I did not do that here. That's actually a very, very low multiplier. When you're looking at a full success, a full TT success being 200 ped, then really what did I do? I hit roughly a 15 times multiplier. 15 times multipliers are not that hard to hit. It's very nice when you hit them because they can definitely help with your crafting runs and with your returns. But this is far from a huge multiplier. A huge multiplier would have been a 10,000 time multiplier. A 10,000 time multiplier on 200 ped, that, wow, I can't even imagine. Would that be 2 million? It would be 2 million, right? It's early. I'm only on my first cup of Death Wish coffee. Yeah, it'd be 2 million PED, which would be a new one. I've never seen an all-time high anywhere near 2 million. I think the highest all-time high I've ever seen was about 450,000. In fact, let's see on the HOF board where that even puts me, so you guys can kind of see comparatively speaking. So if we look at hunting, 3,200 PED would get you close to the top of the HOF board right now. It would get you position 5 or 6. If you were at 3,200 PED, which is a far cry from crafting. Crafting, you would only be I'm number 11, so much further down on the list, but still cool. I'm still going to screenshot it. We're still going to go with a screenshot of that for today's thumbnail on this here YouTube channel. So this is not a great example of why I tell people to stay away from crafting. Obviously, unfortunately, I don't want this to encourage people to be crafting, but needless to say, this is not how it usually works out. If we look at the all-time high, it was actually set just less than a year ago, 592,747 PED from somebody constructing shrapnel. So 59,000 US dollars on somebody constructing shrapnel, which you can see is almost over twice the previous all-time high set a couple years back. Now, if we go to mining, the all-time high. Oh wait, hold on. If we go to mining, the all-time high is 417,000. I watched that one be hit live. And for hunting, it is 331,000, set back in 2013. There has not been a new hunting all-time high set, at least not in the top 5, since what, about October 2020, when it was the Sand King, and that one was shared loot. This one all went to one person. So I wanted you guys to see that because I wanted you guys to get a little bit better idea of crafting. Had I done that without using the residue, I would have ended up with a whole bunch of extenders worth about 57 PED each, 50 PED somewhere in there, which wouldn't really do me a lot of good. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. At some point, I might do a walkthrough step-by-step of crafting in the game, taking you all the way from new player, trying to skill up, to the end result of actually being able to do it profitably and sell your end items for markup. I will probably do that over the next couple of months, and then I will probably release those videos back to back as like a multi-video guide. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a look in. Normally I like to do longer crafting runs. I would have done all 49 attempts that were available, but I don't need 49 extenders right now, and since I don't know what I'm going to be facing whenever Mayhem comes, since I'm not making these to sell, I'm making them to use, I did not want to go overboard and tie up thousands and thousands of thousands in PED in residue, so, or in extenders. So I will be doing probably a bigger run later on this week with some weapons I'm going to be making for Mayhem. I'm also going to be making some videos talking about melee versus ranged weapons. Also some videos about skills, professions, and how something even like laser rifle can affect something like longsword melee. So we've got some more great videos coming out for you guys. For now, I'm going to end it right there for today. We will keep an eye on Next Island and CP shares, or I'm sorry, on Treasure Island and CP shares. We've got a lot of stuff coming up between now and Mayhem. So guys, from EarnPED.com, I've been StevieB, sip sip, smack smack. Thanks for all the support, guys. We really appreciate it. I've been paying a lot of EarnPED withdrawals lately and hope to continue to do so, because the more you guys help support us, the more it helps us, the more it helps you, the more it helps us, the more it helps you. And that's the best way to do it. So guys, we really appreciate it. Stay tuned and we'll have more videos for you real soon. Take care, guys.